I'm Carolyn Smockel. I am the City Clerk Treasurer for the City of Malta, and I'm also the Board of Directors for the Judith River Foundation, or also known as the Dinosaur Field Station. Tonight, which is May 12th, we are having our annual fundraiser for the Dinosaur Field Station. Hopefully, everyone in the state of Montana will see and appreciate the finds that we have housed here in Malta. Tonight you will be hearing from Nate Murphy, who is our resident paleontologist, who is very, very active in our search for dinosaurs and also new discoveries. Ann Booth, who is with Philco Economic Development Council, will talk to you tonight, and she will inform you on to the status of the finances and the grants that the City of Malta has received for the Dinosaur Field Station.
I'm Ann Booth, and I'm the Executive Director of Philco Economic Growth Council, which serves Malta and Phillips County. We have worked with the City of Malta to obtain a $14,000 Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG grant, to help us work through a preliminary architect report process. And we are through the draft of that. We've identified some initial work that we'd like to do for an expanded dinosaur facility here in Malta. And that work is in conjunction with House Bill 423, which was the Montana legislature so graciously last session. This bill is for $500,000, and it is to assist us in the effort of expanding our dinosaur facility here in Malta. To date, we have identified two alternative sites. We've done investigative work at both sites, and we continue to look preferably more towards a site which is within the City of Malta. It's in essence co-located with our existing Phillips County Museum. We think that that site offers a better opportunity for the community as a whole, as far as getting people into the retail establishments and motels and everything else. We're excited about it all. We're going to continue with our fundraising. With the constraints that were put on this legislation in House Bill 423, we've had some challenges, and we're trying to work through those. The state has been very helpful in that process. Dave Cole with the Community Development Program at the Montana Department of Commerce is our liaison, and he is providing us a wealth of information and helping us get through some of the details and the paperwork. And we hope to meet with Dave within the next 3 weeks and draft our preliminary plan to him with what we really want to do with the $500,000 and how we want to try to capitalize that a little bit and continue with our expansion. The goal is to get our facility up and going by next year at this time, at minimum. So we appreciate all the legislators and what they've done for us, and look forward to working with you in the future. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Dixie Stordahl, the manager of the Dinosaur Field Station here in Malta, Montana. I run the gift shop and direct tours through the laboratory. In the gift shop we have a lot of dinosaur items, from books by Bob Bacher. We have a lot of t-shirts and other clothing items, and all sorts of dinosaur paraphernalia.
Hi, my name is Rhonda Suggs, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a Border Patrol's wife, and we came up here from the border of Laredo, Texas, and I had nothing to do here, so I decided to volunteer here at the Dinosaur Field Station, and I was shown how to clean the dinosaur bones. A little bit of art in my background, so therefore I've been able to apply my art onto these sculptures. Once we've cleaned the dinosaur bone, and if you can pan to the neck, I'll show you that the neck is completely dirty and filled with the matrix, which is the dirt that's around it. And we've slowly but surely taken out a lot of the dirt and then taken pieces and portions and put them in the air abrasive unit and been able to get them clean, like the black that you see, the bright black is the clean bone, which is go out into the field and I dig them up, which is a lot of fun. And then I get to actually, there are so many cracks throughout these bones that we have to fill them in with clay. And so then we sculpt missing pieces. So that's another thing that we do. And then also what we do here is we make replicas so that we can sell our product and maybe get it out there to other museums.
I'm Larry Putnam. I'm a member of the Judith River Foundation Steering Committee here in Malta. We've been meeting several times a month over the last 3 or 4 months and talking about House Bill 423, the appropriation that funded a dinosaur facility for Malta. That discussions have been going very well with the community. We've had a lot of discussion with folks here in town, around the county, and also the folks at the Department of Commerce in Helena. We're pretty much settling in with the use of that appropriation to buy some land near the Phillips County Historical Society Museum here in Malta, and then also building a small structure that would tie in with the local historical society to display dinosaurs, and the effort is going very well. We're just at the point of going back to the Department of Commerce and running those plans and getting the final approval on the expenditure of that appropriation. We do expect to expend that appropriation by the end of the biennium, June 30th of 2007. And the discussions have been going well, and we appreciate the support of people across the state and also in Phillips County in that effort with House Bill 423.
Hi, I'm Nate Murphy, Curator of Paleontology for the Phillips County Museum and the Dinosaur Field Station, which we're here. About 15 years ago, I moved to Malta and approached the county museum about creating a dinosaur exhibit for their museum. And at that time, they only had basically 2 pieces of dinosaur bones in all their exhibits. I knew that the Malta area had the right kind of geology in which to find world-class dinosaurs in. And so I started looking. Pretty soon we found some great specimens, and the specimens built momentum within the community to actually keep these dinosaurs in our community to attract tourism. I'm a scientist first and foremost, but I also, as a scientist, appreciate the value of the tourism dollar coming to your facility, leaving the dollars there so that you can continue your work. And so this has been the goal of the Judith River Dinosaur Institute and the Judith River Foundation, is to ultimately create a home, a world-class dinosaur facility and research center here in Malta. And the results, we're kind of on the cusp of doing great things here. And so you're going to actually get a tour today of the Dinosaur Field Station. And I should tell you that this is not a museum, but rather a research facility and laboratory. So what we do is we go out into the field and collect these specimens, bring them here to the Dinosaur Field Station in the laboratory, and we prepare them. So all the fossils that you see in the next few minutes are real. And you're going to be quite amazed at their completeness. Not only do we have wonderfully preserved dinosaurs here, but we have new species never seen before. So follow me and we'll take a look and take a journey back 150 million years. Okay, here we are. This is one of our oldest specimens. You know, Montana is world-renowned for its dinosaur fossils. However, most people don't realize that the entire period that the dinosaurs existed on this planet stretched 225 million years. And most of the dinosaurs found in Montana represent the latter end of the reign of the dinosaurs. So the last of the Mohicans, if you will. Right here, we have a unique specimen. This is right from the middle of the reign of the dinosaurs. This is a Jurassic dinosaur, and he is about 150 million years old. What's really unique about this specimen is he belongs to a family known as sauropods. So they would be the long-necked herbivores that walked this earth 150 million years ago. And what's very rare, paleontologists find the bodies of these animals, and curiously, because their heads are so lightly built, they fall apart and wash away, or they're scavenged off. So there is only about 24 sauropod skulls existing in museum collections on the planet. And we have one here at the Dinosaur Field Station. Now, the double bonus is, this is a new species of dinosaur, which we're going to be naming next fall. A group of scientists, including myself, are currently describing this animal scientifically and publishing our findings on it, and that's when we'll announce the new name of the mystery sauropod. But here's the skull, and you'll notice that they're different. Here's another sauropod skull, and you can see the actual physical features are so different, and yet you can see how compressed and thin the skull is, and ours is very wide and inflated. So this is a wonderful specimen. This is almost like hitting the Powerball for a paleontologist to recover a skull of an animal like this, and then have the double feature of it being a brand new animal never seen by human beings before. So we have the skull. In this jacket, we have the lower jaws. So this is the right lower jaw, and these spatula-like teeth act like rakes. So these animals actually stripped foliage off of trees, kind of like African elephants, and then worked it down their long necks into a big vat-like stomach, and they would actually swallow rocks. And the rocks would act like gizzard stones and grind up the food. It's amazing that these animals, as big as they were, existed off of such low nutritional materials. So here is the neck, and it's comprised of about 12 vertebrae. This animal, if we collect the whole animal, is going to run around 50 feet in length and come in at about 20 tons. So he's quite a large animal, but not as large as some of the other sauropods that he belongs to. Here is one vertebrae that we're currently preparing. And this is the first one going into his chest cavity. And you can actually see the hole right here where his spinal cord went through. Now, even though these animals were large, their bones were hollow. And that is very interesting from a scientific and an engineering aspect, is because there's all the strength in the world in these bones, and yet they're hollowed out in the right places for strength and economy. Because you have a massive animal with a big torso and a little skinny neck and a little head. This torso has to carry 8 tons worth of intestinal guts. So you've got to have a body and a skeleton that can be strong enough to support a body like that, and yet not too heavy so that you could actually move with the herd. So this was very interesting. Here we have one rib off of the mystery sauropod. Imagine 6 feet of rib. And this isn't one of the larger ones. He had approximately 24 ribs. And if you could imagine these ribs bowing and actually creating almost like a barrel-like torso, and this thing's walking along on all fours, its belly swinging underneath of it, and all of that vegetation rolling around in that huge vat-like stomach. This is truly amazing, and that's what is really exciting when you're digging these animals up, is you realize the size of them and how gigantic they were. But a lot of people only think of them as individuals. I, as a scientist, imagine him walking on a primordial floodplain in the dry season with 20 others. Imagine yourself, put yourself back 150 million years and actually walking among this herd of thundering lizards. It would be quite amazing. You know, a paleontologist's job is not merely just digging up bones. We study the bones when we get them here to the Dinosaur Field Station. And there's some unusual surprises when we get them back here and we start meticulously cleaning them. The bones start talking to us. In the case of this specimen, this is the remains of a young juvenile Brachylophosaurus, a duck-billed dinosaur. He died about 77 million years ago, and he was found here north of Malta. What is really strange is it's a beautiful specimen. The whole animal was there one time, but this is the edge of the cliff that he was sticking out of. So the whole front portion of the animal eroded away, but it left a very important part of the body. This is the pelvis, the top of the backbone, and you see these rod-like features all the way down to the end of the tail. Those are tendons preserved. So this kept this animal's tail nice and rigid, and they had lots of left and right deflection, but very little up and down because of these tendons. Well, in the process of cleaning the sand away, we revealed a section of the backbone that had an injury. This is called a pathology. You'll notice these are nice, flat, straight, what we call neural spines that come off the top of the back. Well, we've got these 2 bumps right here, and then we're actually missing the other neural spine. And the tendon network is disrupted too. In fact, they're ripped out. Well, what caused that? Well, this is the part of the science where we're now using modern forensic technologies from the medical fields to actually CT scan and X-ray our fossils. That way we can look inside and understand some of these injuries and what caused them. What we came away with when we X-rayed this portion of the back is the fact that these 2 areas and this missing neural spine is due to the fact that a tyrannosaur came alongside this little fella, reached across the top of his back and clamped down and ripped the top of his back, and he escaped because we have healing scar tissue. This is almost like dinosaur CSI. And it's amazing that even though our victim has been dead for 77 million years, and the evidence is laid out in the wind and the rain and the sun for all that time, we can still trace back what happened, a little snapshot in time. And you'll see that these x-rays really back up our theory that a tooth was left inside. The tooth of the Tyrannosaur, or if you will, the bullet, actually was left at the seam on the victim. And that's dinosaur CSI, and that's paleontology, modern paleontology at work. This is a complete skeleton of a hadrosaur known as Brachylophosaurus. You'll see standing behind me a life reconstruction of what this animal looked like 77 million years ago. This skeleton is complete, and it's what we call articulated. Now, a lot of people think that we find dinosaurs like this, with every bone in place as they were in real life. But if the truth were known, only 1/10 of 1% of all dinosaurs exhibited in museums around the world are actually dug up in this condition. 1/10 of 1%. So if a paleontologist finds one articulated dinosaur in his life, that's pretty much the best you can ask for. We have 5 of them here at the Dinosaur Field Station. An articulated dinosaur can tell you so much. In fact, lots of people will ask me, well, how do you know that that bone goes there? Well, when you're fortunate enough to have an intact animal that died and was instantly buried, so no movement of the skeleton could be done, well, it doesn't get any better than that. And so the bones don't lie when they're in this kind of condition. And you can see the wonderful head here, the eye, the teeth. This is the bridge of the nose. Also the wonderful bowed neck. And this is a common feature in dinosaurs that die and their skeletons are intact. Because of the rigor mortis, their legs pull up towards their stomachs, their heads bow back, and this is because of the muscles tightening up and drawing up. So this is a classic death pose, and it's really beautiful. This is a paleontologist's dream, to be able to dig up a skeleton that has so much wonderful information, and it's rare. Now let's look at how we normally find dinosaur skeletons in our next specimen. Another specimen of a Brachylophosaurus. This is a subadult animal. It's about half the size of the one we just looked at that was articulated. But this is a little bit of how we have to understand the science of burial, which is called taphonomy. Now, when an animal dies in an environment, and this environment that we're finding these Brachylophosaurs in looked kind of like the East Texas Gulf Coast, with lots of meandering rivers and lots of sediment being deposited. It's a great environment if you're an animal and you die. The chances of you getting buried are good. But in this case, our animal didn't get totally buried here. You'll notice that this is the pelvis, the thigh bone, the shin, and parts of the ankles. This is the tail, and that's all articulated. This part must have been covered up, but the front torso of the animal must have been exposed, and the natural process of decomposition took place. And so the rib cage, the backbone around the rib cage started to fall apart. You can see the various vertebrae floating around. And what was really interesting is the animal actually had his front arm folded underneath his belly. So it kept the front hand all articulated. But the neck and the ribs started, the stream flow was swirling around here and taking the rotting carcass apart. Fortunately, we still have part of his skull. And so even though this animal isn't as beautiful and pristine as the first specimen that we looked at, the complete hadrosaur, it still is a wonderful specimen. But this is normally how we find dinosaurs, is disarticulated. So that's why an articulated specimen is the best. Here we are in a negative air chamber, and you're looking at a specimen that is one of a kind. It is a Brachylophosaurus, and it is considered by the scientific world and many as the world's best preserved dinosaur, affectionately known as Leonardo. We found Leonardo in the 2000 dig season, and we didn't know what we had found until the following year when we excavated it. We knew that we had an articulated skeleton, but we didn't know that 90% of his body would be covered in skin. And that's very rare. As paleontologists have usually just skeletons to work on, because flesh normally decays at a high rate to where it can't be fossilized and recorded. And that's why Leonardo is so unique, is because we can see all sorts of skin structure all over his back. This is actually his shoulder muscle here. And this is the rib cage. And along the top of the back, you can see that corset or lattice of tendons. And then right here, this grayish material is his stomach contents. We actually have the last meal he ever ate from 77 million years ago. That is so important, because not only do we have a good glimpse because of the preservation of this animal, we know a lot about this animal, but this stomach contents, we have analyzed it. We know exactly what he was eating. We know exactly the types of plants that also lived in the world that he wasn't eating. And that is due to the fossilized pollen that was sticking to the ferns and the magnolias and the conifers that he was munching on. So it's literally a hermetically sealed package delivered to us from 77 million years ago. It actually, paleontology is like looking through frosted glass. You can see images, but very seldom do you get a clear view of what the prehistoric world looked like. And Leonardo is affording us that look. So here's his forearm, and it has skin. And then this is his wonderfully preserved neck. And you can see this big pouch. We're going to CT scan this, and hopefully we'll find debris and an esophagus. We're also thinking that we might find internal organs. That'll be truly a first. Here is the side of Leonardo's face. So you're looking at his under chin. Here's his duck bill. There's his teeth. and his eye. So this animal is our crowning glory. This is one-of-a-kind specimen and is considered the world's best preserved dinosaur. You can read it in Guinness World Records. As I spoke earlier about dinosaur CSI, a paleontologist's job is not just digging up the bones, but also at the site recording every detail. Because once you extract that specimen from its original resting place, just like a crime scene, you've altered everything. So you better collect your data while you can. This is a guide showing the excavation of our Brachylophosaurus that you saw earlier, Roberta. And this picture here is of me standing at the site after we did all the bobcat and work and dynamiting to get about 18 feet of earth off the top, and we still had another 4 feet in this picture to go before we hit the skeleton. So there was a lot of site prep. Here we have a photograph of the site before we started excavating. What we did is we had to remove 18 feet of overburden by dynamiting and using a bobcat. Now, that got us to about 4 feet above the animal. And here, I spray painted on the ground how I thought the animal was lying underground. And that was pretty doggone close. But then what you have is you have a bunch of dedicated volunteers come in, and it's very laborious. Right next to the skull sticking out as we've uncovered it, here we're getting closer and closer, working down to the skeleton. You can see the backbone, the back legs, the forearms. But in the process, what we're doing, you'll see these two gentlemen here are standing in this grid. Again, this comes back to documentation. Collect all the data. So what we did is we set up this grid and we mapped how the skeleton laid. Here, if you look up above, this is the map that was made of our specimen. This tells us a lot. If you look at it, you'll notice that the head's pulled back, the backbones, the legs are all there, but you'll notice that these bones are kind of strung out going this way. Well, actually, the animal was decaying so much that the stream flow was dragging off parts of its body and depositing it downstream. So we could actually, by the sampling of the sediments around the fossil, we could determine that Roberta was lying halfway submerged on a river bank. His arms and legs were out in the deeper channel where the stream flow could actually slowly take her feet and her legs apart and the end of her tail. Now, once we have done all the mapping and we've exposed all the bones, here you can see the complete forearms. We start the process of jacketing and removal. And here, one of our volunteers is actually putting a protective layer of paper towels over the bones. You'll notice little white marks on the bones. Each bone is numbered and recorded, and it is reflected in the site map. After the protective layer is put on, then we put soaked burlap bandages in plaster. And this kind of forms just like a cast around your arm if you broke it. It stabilizes everything, and then once the plaster is hardened, we lift the jackets out and transport them back to the lab. Now, we take advantage of natural joints where we can and remove actual limbs if we could. This animal was not really hard to actually remove from the ground, but there were parts of the skeleton we would have had to break badly in order to get it out of the ground. So we decided that we would take out most of the body in one huge jacket, about 4 tons, which is not done too often because of the degree of difficulty in doing it. So here you see volunteers actually putting the plaster bandages over the main body and the legs, the rear legs. Then we brought in a crane and lifted it up and transported it back to the museum, where you see the specimen lying in state now under preparation.